If you've ever been out to eat with someone who was a self-proclaimed wine expert, or maybe you really were eating with someone who you know had a little more wine knowledge than you and you felt intimidated, today's episode might be for you. I'm going to be sharing some top tips that'll help you feel a little bit more like a wine expert, even if you're still growing in your knowledge. And little secret, no one is a complete wine expert. It is such a massive world of knowledge that no one can master in a lifetime. So first of all, don't be intimidated. If someone is showing off their knowledge, then they're probably not that amazing anyway. But nonetheless, today's episode is going to give you some great tips on how you can feel more like a wine expert every day. Hi friends, and welcome to the Wine CEO podcast show. My name is Sarah and I'm a certified sommelier and host of the Wine CEO podcast show. And I have over 3 years of podcasting, over 150 episodes, and over 10 years of beverage industry knowledge. But even with all of that, I am not here to make wine intimidating. I try to share my passion and love for wine with you, as well as my love of food and travel and wine culture. And so each week on this channel, I bring new and relatable wine content that helps you learn and grow in your wine journey in a really fun and approachable manner. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, be sure to do so now. Follow along on social media at The Wine CEO, and let's dive into today's episode that is all about how you can feel more like a wine expert each and every day. All right, friends. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that you should never be intimidated by another wine consumer, whether they have a whole bunch of letters at the end of their name, so you know they have some type of a degree. First of all, that does not make them an expert. I have met plenty of people that are book smart and have studied for a wine exam, but when it comes to appreciating and being passionate about wine, they can't hold a candle to it. So don't be intimidated if someone has a degree or if they are a self-proclaimed expert because they've had every amazing wine in the world. Please remember that wine is a very personal experience. And so you should feel confident in understanding that you love wine in a unique way and you don't have to justify or prove yourself to anyone else. And frankly, if someone wants to be very proud of their wine journey, that's awesome. You can be proud of your wine journey too. But I know that sometimes it can still feel a little intimidating when you are maybe going to a wine tasting or you're meeting with someone who you feel is a little more of a wine expert. And so I'm going to give you just a few tips today that will help you feel more like a pro. I've also done some other episodes in the past about wine faux pas and things you want to try and avoid, so I'll link that episode here. But hopefully today will be a fun episode that will give you a couple tips and tricks to make you feel like a wine pro, whether you're hosting others or going out to eat with that wine expert in your life. Okay, so the first thing I want to share is that you're going to want to drink your sparkling wine out of a white wine glass. Now, this is white wine. This is not sparkling wine. You can't see any bubbles, but I'm using it as an example here. You don't want to drink sparkling wine out of a flute or a coupe glass. And I've talked about this in the show before, but a flute glass is going to be too narrow for you to really be able to enjoy the aromas of the wine. And a coupe is going to be too wide, and so all of the bubbles are going to dissipate too quickly. I've done some episodes on champagne and other sparkling wines, and what you'll remember if you've listened to those is that sparkling wine is a wine, right? Just like any other wine. It is made as a still wine first, and then it is going through a secondary fermentation that gives it the carbonation. And so with that, the wine has characteristics, it has flavors, it has aromas that you want to be able to pick up on, and you're not going to be able to do that in a flute glass. So even though that has traditionally been the elegant glass to serve your sparkling wine in, if you want to look like a wine expert, try drinking it out of a white wine glass. That's going to help keep the bubbles intact, unlike a coupe, but it's also going to give you the mouth of the glass that will allow you to smell the aromas and have a better overall tasting experience. My second tip is going to be trying grape varieties and regions you've never heard of. I think a lot of folks are a little hesitant to try some off the beaten path wines. They're afraid they won't be good. And so they stick to tried and true favorites. They always go for a Cabernet Sauvignon from California. They always go for a Shiraz from Australia. By doing this, yes, you stick to very classic varieties from regions that are known for that particular grape, but what you'll find is that most wine experts are constantly wanting to explore new things. They're curious. That's why they got into wine. And so trying some different grape varieties that maybe you've never heard of, or trying regions that you're not familiar with, Greek wines, Hungarian wines, Croatian wines, trying some things off the beaten path like that will make you look a little more like an expert, because that's what your standard sommelier and curious wine industry professional is going to be doing. So try something new and delicious, as I always say at the end of every episode, and that will make you look a little bit more like a wine expert as well. If you're afraid to just pick a bottle at random at a shop or to randomly select something off of a menu, ask for help. Honestly, I'm a certified sommelier and I will still ask for help, because someone who works at a local store or restaurant knows their wine list and their wine selection. Maybe they've had a chance to try those wines or even meet with those winemakers or distributors, and so they know their list even better than I do. And so asking for help is actually another way to look like a wine expert. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but truly asking for a recommendation from someone from that restaurant or that store shows that you want to try something new, you want to learn, you're not just defaulting to what you already know. Again, the wine world is so massive, and so you can't master the entire thing in one lifetime. You have to keep learning, you have to keep growing. And wine industry professionals tend to be curious about new wines and new regions. So if you want to look a little more like a wine professional, next time you go to your favorite restaurant or wine shop, ask for help. All right, this next one is a little bit of a pet peeve, but I often see people who feel like they are such wine experts bragging to their server or sommelier about how amazing a particular wine is. And I have found that humility is key. When you are a true wine industry professional, you're passionate about wine. You love learning about wine and you love sharing that passion with others. So honestly, when I go out to eat and I bring a wine with me and I have the server open it, I always offer them a taste of it. Or if I've ordered an amazing bottle, something that is maybe a little more expensive and something that my server or sommelier maybe hasn't had a chance to try, or it's something unique and different. Maybe it's an older wine, or maybe it's from a region that I visited and I brought a bottle home. I will always offer them a taste, because wine is something that should be shared. So if you're someone who likes to brag about how amazing and expensive your wine is, but you're not willing to share with others, you're kind of giving off a little bit of a vibe there that you're not actually a wine expert. Because again, someone who is going to be really excited about wine, who truly is a wine professional, wants to share that with others. And so if you want to look more like a wine expert, don't be prideful about how expensive and amazing your bottle is. Share it with others. My next tip is going to be that you should let white wines warm up just a little bit on the table. I've found that often when I go to a restaurant, a lot of white wines are served a little too cold, and sometimes that can be because they're pulling a wine immediately out of the wine fridge or just a standard fridge and serving it, and often that is a little too cold. Restaurants that have smaller storage space might store beer and wine together, and so the temperature is going to be a little colder than it really should be for white wine. So when the server pours the glass, the wine glass is going to frost immediately and it's really cold. When you first taste that wine, you're not going to be able to pick up on all the flavor aromas and tasting components. And so if you let that wine warm up a little bit in the glass before you really taste it and drink it, you're going to enjoy it so much more, because as it warms up, the wine will actually be able to release more aromas and flavors. So quick little tip, especially if you are dining out and you notice that when the white wine is poured, your glass is chilled, make sure that you let it warm up for a few minutes before you taste it, maybe even before you taste it, and let the server know if you approve of it or not, because you want to be able to enjoy all of those aromas, and when it's cold, you won't be able to do so. This next one is probably subjective, but at the end of your dinner, try a sweet wine. Try enjoying a sweet wine instead of a dessert, or maybe in addition to your dessert. I find that, right now a lot of people are in the after dinner cocktail trend, or, I don't know, having a espresso martini or something, right? Which is delicious, and I love after dinner cocktails. But if you have never tried a sweet wine, it is something to really be enjoyed, especially in place of dessert, because it's going to be really sweet and enjoyable. So try a sweet wine, maybe try a port or a marsala, try an ice wine, enjoy that next time you're out. And that will also show that you're familiar with more than just table wines. You understand sweet wines and some fortified wines. And so that could also be a little tip that maybe you're a little more of a wine expert than the average consumer also. And then last but not least, this one is just kind of a fun one. What you will find is that most wine industry professionals drink beer, my friends, especially when they are out in social settings. Because let's be honest, when you spend the rest of your day tasting wine, making wine, the last thing you want to do is also go drink wine in the evenings when you're trying to just forget about your day and relax. So if you really want to look like a wine expert, get a beer. I hope you enjoyed this fun list today, friends, and a few of the tips will help you feel a little more confident as you are growing in your wine journey. If you haven't subscribed to my show yet, be sure to do so now. Follow me on Instagram at The Wine CEO. If you have any questions about this episode or wine in general, don't hesitate to send me an email, sarah@thewineceo.com. This week, I hope you drink something new and delicious, and I will catch you all in the next episode of the Wine CEO podcast.